Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. Going to pre-record this week, try to get the equipment stuff figured out. So this will be like trial run number 1. Hopefully it works. Switched my mic up, gave up on the Focusrite Scarlett. I think the driver is just disconnecting. So this is my test, switching to a different direct system. I still have my Fuji camera plugged in. So everything else is the exact same. I'm just changing my mic to a USB mic. So we'll see if this works better. But I know the last couple shows, I feel like I talk on stuff and I don't even remember what makes it into the show. So we'll see. The big thing that it's still haunting around, I don't think it keeps coming up, it's the Aaron Rodgers situation. And that's because right now with Pittsburgh, I feel like there's a pressure. I don't think it's from inside the organization. And I wouldn't even say that it's from the media, right? Well, I guess it depends. I think it's from external media. When I say media, I don't mean the local Pittsburgh media. I haven't seen a lot of anti-Aaron Rodgers stuff come from the local media. It's all more from like ESPN and other major news outlets, like the clickbait ones from like Yahoo or Bleacher Report, where they're saying, hey, the Steelers are upset. They need Aaron Rodgers there now. And I've said it before, the guy is old. Do you really want him not resting and training on his own and like putting in the time? We saw it with Russell Wilson. Hangs out all the time, right? Comes in, he's like overstressed, worn out, whatever, dude. And then he's tired, and that's it. Game 6, 7, 8. If he makes it further, remember they expanded the season. So like Aaron Rodgers hasn't even played a successful playoff season with the expanded regular season. He hasn't even made it, I don't think, right? The Packers run was before that, I think, and they lost the first round. Didn't they? I mean, that was the Niners year where it looked like the Green Bay had a great team and Aaron Rodgers just couldn't get it done. So if I'm Pittsburgh, having Mason Rudolph there, yeah, it's annoying that people are asking him about the quarterback situation. It's not really his fault. This is kind of like, hey, this is your second chance, dude. You could Sam Darnold it and blow up. Remember last year? I was so down on Sam Darnold. Like, that's a horrible decision by the Vikings. This guy's not even going to play. JJ's going to come in like week 3 or whenever, like he gets his feet wet. But instead, JJ gets hurt and they decide Darnold's been playing so well, we're not going to rush him back. I mean, they very easily could have had JJ back late in the year. But I think Sam Darnold deserved the chance to ride out the season. And so if Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign, give Mason Rudolph the chance to ride out the season. If it's a disaster, then bring in Will Howard or whatever you need to do to decide if the team's tanking and whatever. Like, I think they need to decide what the plan is if the Mason Rudolph experiment doesn't work. But honestly, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I honestly think Aaron Rodgers still is going to sign with Pittsburgh. What do you think?
I think he will. If he decides to play. I feel like, though, there's not as much pressure as what I feel like the media is trying to put on for it. Because, I mean, going in, I think the big concession is going to be, is Pittsburgh willing to give that the type of autonomy in the playbook and the play calling that Rodgers is going to want at this stage in his career? Because, I mean, you're realistically looking at what, maybe 2 years? So, I mean, to bring him in, I think you have to be looking as a front office person like, hey, we are set to win it all this year. We go in on the quarterback, give him the autonomy to run with the concepts and stuff that he likes. In the meantime, develop Will Howard and allow Rudolph to be the backup and develop those guys underneath within the same framework of what Rodgers wants, so that if when he does get hurt or retire or whatever, that you're not just left in the wind, because I feel like the Jets kind of did that, trying to bring him in this late in his career and put themselves in a really tough spot, because then he got hurt and then they were struggling with what do you do with the quarterback spot.
It's almost like the Tom Brady thing, though, where I was on record and I'm still on record saying, if Tom Brady calls you, I don't care about the next 2 years, you give it a chance. Aaron Rodgers doesn't deserve the same chance as Tom Brady. I'm not one of those delusional media guys that keeps talking about, like, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback of my life. And because anyone that I hear talk about that, and I've seen guys still bringing it up, you're delusional. Like, Tom Brady is clearly the best quarterback that I've ever seen. Patrick Mahomes right now is number 2. Those two guys, if they call you, yeah, I'm giving it a chance no matter what happens, right? If I know, like, hey, I'm signing for 1 year, I go all in. If they get hurt, tough break. Aaron Rodgers, like, with Pittsburgh right now, if, like the rumors are saying, people like TJ Watt are ready to move on to a different franchise to try to win, I'm all in on giving him a chance, knowing that he's a big enough name, people respect him, and they think that he has it together enough to try to make another run. So bring him in, let them go and do their thing, and just see if they can go. And then if not, then if the defense and other people, like other veterans, are just going to go ahead and leave, they're going to abandon the team anyway, at least you gave it one more chance with this core group. And then you'd have to rebuild. But like we've seen with Washington, rebuilding these days doesn't take long. It took them, 2 young draft classes to kick it into high gear? And that wasn't even, the first one wasn't even like a focus, right? Because they brought Dan Quinn in just this past year. So like you start building young guys, and then you get a quarterback and a coach that can work in that system, and you can rebuild in maybe 1 year now. It just depends. Like, are you going to get a guy that is young, hungry, great leadership that can drive the team and go from there? I don't know. Like it's going to be something, and I don't think Pittsburgh. Like I joke about them going for Arch Manning. We honestly have no idea what Arch Manning's going to look like. He hasn't really been asked to pass. And I've brought up the JJ comparisons before where, like, JJ wasn't asked to pass. He didn't need to. The guy's a winner. If Arch Manning comes in and he wins everywhere too, and he has the bloodline, I mean, JJ didn't even have that. You have the bloodline to take you to that next level, you better believe teams are going to take a chance. Now, whether, even if this year, like let's put it in perspective, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, if Arch Manning has the same season, mine is like, I mean, I guess he could get banged up. Quinn Ewers had some injuries, but if he gets Texas to the playoffs and they lose, and like, I guess they won't beat Clemson, so they won 1 game, lost to Ohio State in the next round? Oh yeah, or did they play 2 games? I don't even know. No, they beat Arizona State. So he won 2 games and lost in the quarterfinals. If Arch Manning did that, I think he'll be a top 10 pick just based on name alone. Well, like if he has the exact same season as Quinn Ewers had, where, hey, he won 2 playoff games, that's all people will be talking about. Yo, he won 2 playoff games. Got to get him in the top 10. His uncles, right? And so that's where the thing is, it depends on how he looks. Like, does he look shook up? I don't know. What's it going to come down to? Is he able to drive the franchise forward? Because you really don't want a diva. As much as I always joke about Eli Manning being like the best Manning because he won 2 Super Bowls like by himself with the Giants, his overall record wasn't that good in New York. Like, there were some peaks and there were some valleys. That's why, like, the Ben Roethlisberger thing, yeah, they were kind of having the same thing. Like, oh, this might be the year where they get back to the top. It was all kind of downhill. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' career has been 1 peak, straight downhill. Like you're a downhill skier. And at the bottom you hit some rocks. That's the Jets portion. You're like, I didn't know the snow didn't go down that far. Sorry, fellas. Where you need to kind of have that ebb and flow. Like Patrick Mahomes is kind of doing that. His valleys are just like little blips, though. Like he's not really dropping down to 500 record. He's still flying around at top speed. So that's where Steelers, I know you could do like a Lamar where you're kind of hovering near the peak. Maybe work your way up to the top. Maybe you never do. Maybe you just turn around and go home. But there are some guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson that have been close. And I think those two on the AFC side, the Steelers got to think real hard. Mason Rudolph, man, is he going to be able to break through when those two guys haven't? Show me some Sam Darnold magic. And then even Sam Darnold flamed out in the playoffs. But again, he deserved the chance. If the Steelers and Mason Rudolph go like 13-4, whatever it is this year, with the expanded record, he deserves a chance at a playoff game, no matter what happens. And I think that would be a miracle season for me. I mean, I'm sure Vikings fans thought the same last year. They're like, new quarterback, we're rebuilding, probably win like 8 games or something, even though we have a big core. Now, they have way more weapons. Although, I guess the Steelers, I mean, you get rid of Pickens, though. Do they have weapons? I don't even know what the Steelers... Like, that's the one thing that... If you're luring Aaron Rodgers, why do you get rid of Pickens for nothing? That really hurts your 1 year. Right? Don't you think?
Yes, very much so. And I just... There's more to that story, and I just don't know what the issues were that got to that point, because I feel like that adding Metcalf made sense with Pickens, because now you have 2 opposite end receivers that can stretch the field, and you can do a lot with that. And I feel like they got ahead, unless their end game is just to stockpile picks, and they're just going to try to go into a rebuild mode. Like rebuild. Trading him knowing that you're going to be in a rebuild kind of makes sense, that you're still playing relatively competitive with the raw for the veterans right now. Like, you're showing the more veteran players so you don't completely tank. But I think it sets the table for what we've seen out of Pittsburgh recently, where it's slightly at 500, whether it's up or down, push for a wild card spot, and be middle of the pack.
Well, with the Pickens, don't you think they could have got more picks? Wasn't it like a 3rd and 5th round?
It was, but I mean, I feel like with other receivers, that's a pretty standard return. I mean, that was similar to what they got, like 2 and 5 for Claypool, or a 2 and something else.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean,
as much as you think you're going to get value, I just don't know that you're getting it.
Plus, he didn't show off as much as you would think. No, I was thinking, he's probably better than Claypool, but in reality, was he? I don't know. Like, thinking back now, I don't know if I would have said like, either of these dudes are just all pro, whatever, you know?
I mean, my thing was, I felt like I didn't see them really trying to push the ball to Pickett. And that was what I thought. I thought he should have had 20, 25 targets a game. I mean, there were sometimes he was only getting like 3 to 5 targets. Now, whether that's just the quarterback looking him off, knowing he's defensively matched up and they're looking other places, because I mean, they could be trying to funnel it to him, but if they're putting their best corner on him and double covering him every time, could justify like not getting him the ball as much. But even at that, like, I think they can game plan to try to get him more touches than what he had.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, 20, they're not going to give a receiver 20 looks. I think targets are around 10-ish for top, based on fantasy. Why I know that? It's that fantasy is a disease, bro. I shouldn't know that. I forgot. My guy gets 7 targets, I'm pumped. But yeah, they should have been targeting him downfield. But if you don't have the line and they're not respecting the run, I don't know. Like, it's kind of a catch-22. You can just throw up fades, but everyone knows, like, even fades in the end zone, like, they have a low percentage. Like, you're not hitting high. It's almost like, oh, we'll take a gamble here just to get the defense looking out instead of, like, focused all in. And, like, yeah, sometimes they hit if your guy's giant and you have, like, a big guy that go up and get it. But yeah, the Steelers, the outlook for the year right now for me is low. I talk to so many guys that are so excited for the new season, and I'm kind of baffled. Like, I don't want to go ahead and ruin the expectations and say, look, even with Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to be an exciting, hey, Steelers season where, hey, everyone's coming back. It'll be awesome. It's going to be, if this is another mid-season, do they just stack up on picks and give up? And because I think, do you have to rebuild like that? Even when the Chiefs took Mahomes, that was like pick, 11? They weren't like a complete tank at that point. They had Alex Smith, didn't they? He was decent.
Yeah.
So you could bring in a veteran guy and see what happens, but it's just my excitement level is probably a 3 out of 10. What do you think?
I mean, I'm kind of thinking low as well, but I mean that's also partly baited because of what we've seen on the field. I mean, they haven't done anything to really show that A, they can develop the players that they currently have on the roster, and B, that they're bringing guys in that are going to contribute. I mean, I feel like they let Najee walk, and they didn't replace with. No, they did draft a rookie running back, and maybe it's a 1-to-1 swap, but I think it's a tall order coming into their organization to try to put that on a rookie.
Do you think the Dak Prescott move would make sense?
You know, honestly, I'd be open to it. I don't think it would be terrible for him. I think so much of it anymore hinges on what the offensive line plays, because I feel like there's so many times where whoever the quarterback is drops back and is constantly having to scramble around. Now, I know that was something that kind of fit Roethlisberger more, and I think he did that just because that was more his comfort. I don't know that every quarterback that they've brought in since him has been that I want to scramble and make plays with my legs. Like, I think at some point you have to keep the quarterback upright so that they're not just getting shelled game in and game out. Because I think that was one of the things with Kenny Pickett, is that, like, was he as bad as what was made out? Because he was running for his life half the games he played.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing, too, with Pickett, though. He had other chances, and he hasn't played his way back in. So Dak is with the Cowboys. It could be a similar situation where he goes somewhere else, and people have been telling Dallas that they might have to make a move, and they never did. Like, would it be an upgrade? Would it be a downgrade? Like a weird swap. Like if the Cowboys made a move for Dak this late, which has been a rumor floating around, which is why I brought it up, and then the Cowboys signed Aaron Rodgers for 1 year, reunited him with McCarthy. He's still there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be an amazing just twist of fate, where the Steelers end up at, like, what, 10 wins maybe? And it's just like a reversal where the Cowboys take the Aaron Rodgers thing. He's back in the NFC, which it seems like Aaron Rodgers kind of wants to be back in the NFC. He's not dumb. Like, he sees the same things I see. You're up against the top 4-5 QBs in the league, all on the AFC side. That's your side. The NFC side, you beat the Eagles, you have a good chance. It takes one game in the Super Bowl, someone to get hot. Like, you think the Chiefs get blown out by the Eagles every time they play last year? No. They came out with a game plan, they executed. It was a beatdown. How many times have we seen the Chiefs get beat down recently? Like, almost never. So, it's an easy path in the NFC. Any NFC team, it's 50-50. Yeah, you could lose the championship game, But if you get there enough, you're bound to get lucky. One time, all it takes is one time. Where the AFC, man, you're like, oh, we're losing to Mahomes every year now. Awesome. He's getting in there. He's like 50-50 in the Super Bowl. Like, it's hard to win it every year. He lost to Tom Brady. He lost to the Eagles now. Did he lose another one? He lose to Matt Stafford, or was that someone else? That might have been. I can't remember. Was that them? Who lost to the Rams? That might have been. That wasn't Tom Brady though. But yeah, you have a run. That might have been Joe Burrow. Or no, Joe Burrow lost to because the Niners never won. I guess I should just look at him instead of just randomly talking on a podcast about who might have lost the Super Bowl. But that's my NFL update for the week. I don't know. People are working out. I see the workouts. I'm not impressed by the Steelers workout videos, by the way. Like, if I see them pop up and I click on them, I'm like waiting to see, hey, these guys look good. It's like, nah, they don't look that good. That to me, it's like, if the hype videos don't impress me, 3, excitement. Like, I want to see guys that are shredded, like doing heavy bends, like doing like quick receiver outs. Like, a random Antonio Brown video against Deion Sanders' son should not look more impressive than a Steelers workout. Official. These are official, right? Or are these unofficial? Because you don't have to show up. Aren't these just OTAs?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be there for that. Skip it. Anything else for the NFL you want to talk about that you saw?
Well, I think you hit the nail on that. That's why, like, with all of the talk of Aaron Rodgers, like, I'm not in a hurry to see him sign right now. Just knowing full well that he could come in tomorrow, and a big part of he's not coming in and blindly taking in their playbook. Like, he's coming in with, I mean, the verbiage may be a little bit different, but he's coming in with what he wants. They're bringing him in to operate his system. He's not learning something new in his 40s.
Well, yeah, and is it really that much of a difference? Because, like, at some point, yeah, he's running his stuff, but quarterbacks change teams all the time, and, like, players change teams all the time. They kind of just run the same stuff. Maybe some of his, like, looks and mannerisms, that's why he tries to bring, like, Alan Lazard with them, and even Devontae Adams. But I think Devontae Adams learned with the Jets, hey, my man's losing it. I better get that bag and try to win elsewhere. He went with the Rams with Stafford, like another old QB. Maybe he heard that the NFC is easier to win. But I don't know. Anything else in the NFL you want to talk about?
No.
I was looking it up to see if there was any breaking news. I mean, there's a lot of Shedeur Sanders stuff. And I get it. They say he's looked better than the other guy. It's like, yeah. They shouldn't have took Dylan Gabriel over him. He was like a first-round QB like rating. I know the ratings don't always mesh up, but when you're taking 2 QBs and one's rated much higher and just has, I mean, no offense to Dylan Gabriel, he just doesn't have the physical size, right? He's going to have to be a Kyler Murray type, make your own player, a Doug Flutie guy. That's just the way it is. So Shedeur Sanders does have a little bit more size on him. And like everything else, the measurables are all in favor of him. Of course he's going to look better early. That doesn't mean he's going to play. That doesn't mean he's going to be a star for the Browns. But he probably has a chip on his shoulder now. But we'll see. Getting into college football, I had some people like reach out to me because of some of the SEC stuff I was saying last week. And I went back through and I read statements, try to check up some other financial stuff. Yes, I know the SEC teams can still get donor contributions. Yes, I know if you look over the overall revenues from schools that the SEC schools are still competing and or leading a lot of the Big Ten schools. But what I'm saying is the NIL stuff, that's outside of the athletic department budget right now. So the TV money that's there If the government gets involved or the schools get together and they say, hey, we're going to split up television money as part of a school-sponsored stipend program, they're not going to say that they're paying players. They're going to say it's like some type of stipend, just like their tuition. The Big Ten is easily going to be head and shoulders above the SEC because they're already $10 million. They've already been making $10 million more a year in TV revenue than the other conferences. The Big Ten, next year, the actual Pac-12 editions kick in. It's supposed to be another $12 million. We don't know if ESPN's bumping up the SEC yet. If they surely were, they would have announced it. Trust me, the SEC doesn't want the Big Ten to just say, hey, there might be a $20 million gap next year in favor of the good guys, right? The SEC would put out, like especially ESPN, because they put all the marketing into the SEC. You don't want to tell players, hey, we're going to give you a percentage of money based on TV contracts. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Big Ten schools, there's now like 18 of them, and they all make $20 million more than we're going to be able to pay. Because even if you split that up amongst football players, and there's like 100 of them, yeah, they're not going to each be getting $1 million, and you're counting all the athletes from the school. And yeah, the SEC doesn't play as many sports as the Big Ten, but they've already tried to split it where I think I've seen, and I could be wrong, I don't know if you've seen this, Matt, where they're trying to say like, football gets 75%, basketball gets 15%. They said women's basketball might get 5% or something, and then all the other sports get 5% or whatever's left. Like I think the other sports would all get lumped in with 5%, and then women's basketball 5%, and then whatever the football and basketball numbers needed to make it work. But that TV money, so like let's say, to keep it really simple, the Big Ten gets like $50 million. Like $5 million of that, or $2.5 million, I guess, would go to all the other Olympic sports. So like baseball players, they would get that split up. There's probably a couple hundred of them. So they're probably getting a couple $1,000s, right, a year to play their sport. Women's basketball, there's only like 15 of them or whatever. So if they're getting the same pot, $2.5 million to split up, they're probably making a decent wage, I would think. Men's basketball even more. And then, of course, football, the percentage is higher because there's more football players and they're making more money. I wouldn't be surprised if that number shifts a little bit because I don't think they want to be paying basketball players more than what they would pay football players. I think it's all going to come out to be probably kind of even, I would think. But that money's based on the TV contract. So therefore, if you're in the AAC, and I think that's where East Carolina is, which I brought up because that's where I'm down here, their bucket might only be $3 million. So then they're splitting based off that, not the $50 million that the Big Ten is. And I don't even think it's going to be 100% of TV revenues. I think it's going to be like 50%. So the Big Ten, I use 50 because the Big Ten television contract is supposed to be anywhere from 80 to 100 million. I rounded up to 50 to kind of make it even for me to do the math in my head. It might be more, might be less if that's half, if that's what they're splitting with the players. I don't even know if that's going to be the number. Because in reality, if you don't have the players, you don't get any of the TV money, right? Try to have them play, try to have the university have an admin go out and play Madden or something and see if people watch that on TV. Or heck, buy tickets to go into a stadium and watch someone do that. Because they already try to do that with these sports. It doesn't work. Like the game doesn't work without the players. So I'm hoping the players get more. That way I can cheer every year the Big Ten gets a bigger TV contract. And it's like, why do you care? It's like, well, the athletes to my school, then they're getting paid more. And I was a student athlete myself. I want to see them make more money. Right? Give the kids an opportunity to capitalize because you have a digital age now where they can make the money. Now, the SEC thing I really don't care about, but I do have a vested interest in like cheering for Michigan and NC State, neither of whom are in the SEC. And I want to see if Michigan has that advantage, take advantage of it. If Michigan has to deal with weird politics within the Big Ten where their coaches can get on a call and get their coach suspended randomly, that's some BS, and I don't want to see that happen. If they're going to do one big group, because I keep hearing teams say, well, the conferences are going away, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to merge. If they merge, you better believe you're going to see a split revenue system. Like Michigan and Ohio State are already subsidizing the rest of the Big Ten pretty much. You could say Oregon and USC, they might be able to pull their own weight, maybe Penn State. But some of those other ones like Rutgers and them, they're not letting Mississippi State and those other schools in that can't pull their own weight. The only way a merger happens is if those schools agree to take less money, kind of like the ACC model. And then at that point, I don't want Florida State and NC State and like Georgia Tech and North Carolina and other big name schools that I don't mind watching on TV. I don't want them left behind in sub conference that is weird half academic model. Right? Do you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be weird like, hey, if let's say they split and Florida State wins the second tier and Michigan both wins national championships and we're on here celebrating, that would be a weird ass show. Like, hey, congrats on the Noles for winning that division, whatever they call it, the non-playoff division or whatever. Like, oh yeah, awesome. But it's like, yeah, remember when they used to compete with each other like 2 years ago? Yeah, it was awesome. Bummer they can't do it anymore. And they easily can, because you can't tell me. Now, if it turns into a bunch of beatdowns where, oh, well, the Big Ten and SEC actually are paying and they're getting all the top 300 recruits in their conference. But I still think those other schools, and I'm pulling out private schools here, like if TCU and Liberty and what's the other one, SMU, if they want to throw some money around Duke and pay to compete, I don't see why you shouldn't include them. Right? You have fans in that area. I know some of them, like Liberty's kind of in the middle of Virginia. Same with like Virginia Tech. Like if their fans, like if that's the only game in town, unless they want to drive up to DC area and they're funding this, let them do it. Like what's the difference? Like you're leaving Nebraska in. Who's going to just Nebraska? No one, based on the looks of it the past 20 years. Haven't been good. But they're given a chance that other historic programs are going to go the way of like the Yale and whatever, where they took their ball and went home. These other schools are just getting cut out for administrative, monetary reasons, and I don't like it. Like no one's saying, oh, only one school from North Carolina can get in. Oh, wait, yeah, why is Michigan State included then? Like that directly hurts Michigan compared to other states like Ohio State that only has one. They get all the funding, all the fan support. I mean, it would 100% benefit Michigan if Michigan State got dropped. Like, if Penn State gets picked and they drop Pitt, then you have Penn State would control all of Pennsylvania, Ohio State would contain all of, like, Ohio, and then Michigan has to split it with Michigan State? Like, that's not fair. That state's not big enough to support two giant teams like that. So, you're putting in, like, weird rivalry cases of, this state can have two teams, but not other ones. Like Florida would have the entire state of Florida to themselves if you don't bring in Miami or Florida State. That state is gigantic. That state is one of the hotbeds of recruiting. I've seen people say like, "All right, which state would you take if you were a coach and you could get whatever recruit you wanted from like any state in the whole country?" I would still 100% take Florida. I've seen Rich Rod build that up at West Virginia, not even getting the top recruits from Florida, just picking guys that fit his system that other schools didn't want. And he was lighting it up. He was killing Georgia after he left and Bill Stewart took over. Like they were thrashing Georgia in that one bowl game.
Well, and I think like when an argument can be made for Florida, but I think you could also say between Texas and California too, that between those three, if you rope those off, that would be a destination spot. I think when you look at like the Pitt Penn State issue, part of the problem has been that Penn State's been able to go in to the Whitfield in Pittsburgh and take essentially who they want out. And Pitt's had this problem where they have good kids locally, but they go to West Virginia, they go to Notre Dame, and they go to Penn State. When you're not keeping your local pipeline at home, I think it puts you at a disadvantage. So to that end, like is Michigan State even with a relative bump in funding, are they going to be pooling recruits at a rate that Michigan is? I highly doubt that. So I think that's one of those things that factors that they're looking at. And I agree to a certain extent about one major team, but I don't know that Michigan State is on a. They're in the same conference, but I don't know that they're competitively at the same level anymore.
And that's my point. Like if you're splitting the teams off, you can't pick giant states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida and say, "Oop, they only get one team." So if you're a recruit from those states, you locally you either have to go there or you can pick like a close nearby rival where Michigan every time in Detroit is going to have to recruit against Michigan State in state. Why? Like that's what the mega conference thing. I hear people say like, "Oh, it'd be nice if we just pick the top whatever level teams," but at some point, if other teams can't join from those areas, like the Miami area would be so underrepresented. Even Florida State's up on the Panhandle, like they're close to Georgia, so then you're not giving any balance there. If you only let Georgia in, that's another state that would have one team in. Why? You're taking two of the heaviest, Pennsylvania has a lot of recruits too. So you have Pennsylvania, Ohio, Georgia, and Florida that would all only have one college team and this split away, merged Big Ten SEC. And I don't want to see that. That's the one thing. If you do something weird like that, where it gives a team a built-in advantage, because remember, it was only a couple years ago that Harbaugh got banned from doing satellite camps. Oh, if you can't go into a different state, that's unfair. Oh, well, let's just make it only one team in the state. Texas has to compete with A&M in their state, even though it's gigantic. You have USC and UCLA in their state, even though it's gigantic. Like, how far do you need to go to get a competitive balance at that point? Do they start having expansion schools where, hey, Florida State keeps winning that lower level, time to invite them out? Do they kick like a Rutgers out? Because I guarantee, no matter what discussion is there, people say, like, maybe they'll get rid of Rutgers. They're not getting rid of Rutgers, dude. This entire point is because they want a television-based super conference. There's no other team that they can pull into that area. ACC already tried it with Syracuse. That's why the Big Ten just didn't say, you know what, we'll just steal Syracuse when we took Miami or Maryland. The Big Ten easily could have took Syracuse and Maryland at the same exact time. And instead, the research number said, we'll take Rutgers. Was it the right move? Money-wise? Yes. Football-wise? Maybe. That's just a guaranteed win for the top dogs, right? I mean, they push them. They win some other games against what other teams? Like when Maryland beats Texas 2 years in a row, that's such an embarrassment to the Big 12 and such a boost to the Big 10 that we see that now with other schools like scheduling. They're kind of afraid. And that's why everything is breaking down. There's no alliance between the Big 10 and the SEC. We saw it with the recent meeting, because I don't know if you saw the aftermath of that meeting, Matt. I forgot to message you the notes to it. The SEC left. They were pushing for a 4-team automatic bid, for the Big Ten and the SEC. The SEC actually, after the build-up, the Big 12 and ACC got in their ear, and they were telling them, hey, look, you might make more money if your teams can, stuff the ballot like they've been doing with an only 8-game schedule, right? And so now the SEC might just vote with the Big 12 and say, hey, 5 automatic qualifiers, the top 11 can get in then after that. And then you're looking at 5, 6 SEC teams. Like Alabama scheduling Mercer week 14 or whatever that is. That's a guaranteed win most years, almost every year. guaranteed win if they're a playoff team. And if the Big Ten doesn't have the foresight to take a hit TV-wise and drop to an 8-game schedule, or heck, maybe Fox doesn't even care. And they say, you know what, we'll make it up and hype if we have 6 teams make the playoffs. Because the Big Ten last year was sitting way prettier than the SEC. And, I mean, we saw it. SEC hasn't played in a national championship game or any Southern team the past 2 years. Washington and Michigan, Notre Dame and Ohio State. 4 teams that you would consider in the North. I know people will consider Washington out west, but Washington's pretty far north. Why? NIL. That's 100% the reason. Players aren't just stuck in the South now, and they're not leaving at the first chance they get when they're getting paid in the North. If it happens again this year, where, heck, I'll even say, even if it's a Southern team in the ACC, like let's say if Clemson or Miami or Florida State make it, I still think the SEC panics at that point. Because if they're boxed out of the championship game 3 years in a row, that's more than just a fluke. Last year, they weren't competitive with the Big Ten and Ohio State. Ohio State thrashed everybody. I don't want to see Ohio State go back-to-back. But if that puts a nail in the coffin of some of this anti-Big Ten BS, then so be it. I'd rather see Penn State. If Penn State wins it, that also kills the SEC narrative of like, hey, each other conference only has like one good team. Oh, really? The Big Ten would have 3 different teams in 3 different years win it. Or heck, if Oregon. Like the Big Ten isn't just a one-trick pony anymore. Heck, Michigan has a freshman QB. We've seen Trevor Lawrence, what the hell? Trevor Lawrence come in and take Clemson all the way. It's been done before. That wouldn't be a different team, but still it would keep it out of the South. But those are the conference updates. I'm kind of worried about the ACC. They kind of seem to be teaming up with the Big 12. I really would just kind of like to see them merge at this point. If you merge, you have such a huge voting block that if the Big 10 says, hey, we need 4 teams in, the new Big 12 ACC could say, no, we need 4 teams in too. We're just as big as you guys. We might not make as much money, but we need guaranteed 4 teams in. And I think that would shift the balance. I mean, right now they're kind of there. Weren't they each going to get 2 in?
I think.
So, what's the difference? You have, if you're worried about teams leaving, you could be the third power. And with the way college football is set up, you could have 3 major conferences and still be okay.
Right. And with the new revenue sharing the ACC is attempting to do now, I think it helps give a little bit of extra financial backing to cover this gigantic gap. Because when you're down $20 million a school, I think it really puts these other conferences as a collective in a really tight spot, because now with what you're able to provide in terms of financial aid packages, just paying players, doing NIL stuff with them, that's a huge disadvantage when you're not in those 2 conferences. So I think if you're offsetting it like the ACC is and trying to say, well, Florida State featured in so many primetime games, they deserve a higher chunk of the revenue sharing. And if they happen to put a competitive team on the field, they're definitely going to be on a more national spotlight and have a chance to go for a playoff run. First things first, they gotta show that they can maintain their competitiveness. But I feel like the moves that they did have at least aligned them in a spot to move the needle.
Oh, and that's where they said, oh, SMU, they got in. We wish that wouldn't happen. Or Boise State finally got in and they got a home game and that shouldn't have happened. It's no, they probably should have happened. It just shouldn't have been off a bye where they get a disadvantage. That's the one thing that with the 16 team, if you go all the way to 16, you don't have a bye anymore. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing. If they go to the 5 and 11, those teams even if it's the top seed, like Boise State would probably still have gotten a home game or close to it anyway, and they should have gotten a home game. And that's where I think, like, if you're taking the top 5 teams and they get the home game, like, that should be guaranteed. The conference champs should get a home game. I know that hasn't really been discussed, but then you're in. Because I think Boise was ahead of Arizona State at that point. Then Arizona State has to go on the road. They were a 2-loss conference champ, whatever. They might have even been in. Like, I don't even know I don't remember what the seeding would have been like, but let them be the lowest seed, like in the NCAA basketball tournament. Let them get a home team. That would give them an incentive of winning their conference and being highly ranked. Like, yeah, a 9-4 with Northwestern could win the Big Ten. Like, okay, awesome. They just want to get a home game, right? Like, they can get in as like another conference champ. They're just not going to be one of the highest ranks to get in. And that's why I almost wish, and I know we might honestly get there, dude, within the next 5 years, where they just go to 24. And they kind of get all of the conferences have a chance. Because I'm thinking that if they push the government for this TV pay, the government's not going to say, oh, we like you guys the best, you're exempt. They're going to say, look, you have to give equal access to like whatever, all conference champs, if you don't want to have to pay these guys as employees. And then I think we'll see a 24-team playoff where the top 10 or top 10 of them are already taken by auto qualifiers. And they can play each other. Like, let the MAC play whatever, the Mountain West or whatever champ. Like, let them do like that first play-in round against like the lower teams. They would get more money than the regular bowl game. More people would watch. If it's the only game on, oh well. If the NFL is going to go ahead and put games on against the playoffs, then I think the NCAA would make a good decision of going ahead and putting those lower games on against the NFL head-to-head. And then shifting their bigger ones to kind of lead into it. Because I'm pretty sure the NFL said we're going to do one night game that opening round. Like, they could put Penn State versus whatever in the opener, Notre Dame or whatever, and then have Boise State play Hawaii or something in the head-to-head NFL game, saying like, well, that's probably going to be a wash anyway. If the NFL game is boring, people might turn back on the other college game because it's the only thing on. So I just want to see all states, everybody. If this state has a team that's funded enough to be the top level, they should have access to the playoffs. Making it smaller, that's my final argument, by the way. Making it smaller isn't going to benefit anybody. All that's going to happen is, oh, Michigan lost to Ohio State. Oh, no one cares. We play them 2 more times. Right? Is it the playoffs yet? That's kind of how the NFL is. Like, oh, the Steelers-Ravens, like, did that game really matter? No. I've seen Ravens fans down here, and I ask them, like, yo, what do you think? Oh, yeah, that one I didn't really care about. Well, we split, right? 1-1? Yeah, okay, whatever. Like, next one. When's the playoff matchup? Like, that's going to be college football. And I don't like it where now, even this past year, Michigan beat Ohio State. Ohio State won the national championship. Their fans are still so messed up by that, they don't know what to think. Like, I've had them say, like, do you think we'd rather have Michigan season? And it stings more because Michigan just won a national championship. It's like, no, I'll take a 15-0 team versus whatever Ohio State was. And they would too. They've never had a 15-win team. And they know it. And so, like, if you have it play, Michigan and Ohio State play 3 times a year, that's going to go ahead and take everything out. And I don't want to see it. If they want to do a Big Ten showcase as kind of like a lead into the playoffs, maybe that would make the Big Ten mean more. That's what Fox kind of wants, where, hey, if we're getting 4 auto bids, let's just have the top 8 Big Ten teams play each other. Or maybe the top 2 play each other, they're automatically in. And then we have the 2 through 8 play each other to determine the last 3 seeds, or 3 through 8, whatever it would be. I said it wrong. That would work. That way your top 2 teams are already in the playoffs, and then the last 2 seeds are decided between, I might have said too many teams. I guess it would have to be 3 through 6. 3 and 6 would play each other, and then 4 and 5 would play each other. The winner of those 2 games are the 3rd and 4th automatic bid to the Big Ten. That would be a big day for CBS and NBC, where, like, because you might not get a Penn State winning the conference. I mean, they played Oregon, so they would have been the top 2 teams, but you would have had Ohio State have to play a play-in game against somebody. Could have been USC. I mean, it's probably Michigan again last year based on the rankings. But could you imagine an Ohio State-Michigan rematch to make the playoffs? Ryan Day would have been calling all run plays. He would have been so fired up, like not knowing what to do. It would have been crazy ratings for Fox. Like, it would have been through the roof. Michigan pulls off a major upset and then could upset him again and kill their coach. They would have fired Ryan Day immediately if they lost back-to-back games without Michigan having a quarterback. And Michigan's defense was cooking. They beat Bama, remember? So it could have happened. I don't know. Like, that to me, that would be better football than whatever they're coming up with now, because I'm not into just a weird 16-team playoff where it's mostly going to be 5-seeded teams from like a conference where they went 8-4 and they lose anyway in the first round. I just don't care. But anything else you want to talk about with college football?
I feel like with what they're doing with the college football playoff, I think you're seeing it play out right now this year in college baseball, where the SEC pounded this drum of, we play such a tough in-conference schedule that we just beat ourselves up, and then we're not as fresh for when the playoffs roll around. So we got to schedule these like NAIA teams through the year, and you end up with these like overloaded, overstacked people from the SEC and the Big Ten, because they have those bigger conferences. You overload the number of people in there, and then with baseball this year, a lot of those teams from the SEC got knocked out early in the baseball playoffs, and there was such a to-do over having all these SEC schools in, and it just didn't play out in their favor.
And that's the one thing with the TV. The ESPN is the biggest marketing outlet for the SEC. They are the only one paying for them. And yet you still see outlets like CBS, I've seen, where they're just out there and they're really putting out this SEC is the best messaging. And it's like, dude, open your eyes. They haven't won anything in football recently. Like, you can say, like, oh, they're putting a lot of draft picks in there. Because I heard someone actually told me this last week. They said, well, the Big Ten can win the championships, but they didn't win the draft. And that's when you know your conference is down, bro. If you're winning the draft. And that's like what an actual person said to me in real life, that they're winning the draft. I don't care about you winning the draft, dude. Because no one like puts a t-shirt on and says most draft picks. Like, Michigan had the most draft picks a year or two ago, or maybe even a couple times with Harbaugh. I wasn't buying a Harbaugh most draft picks t-shirt. I'll tell you that much. I have a national championship shirt, done a couple Big Ten shirts, because that's funny, especially when you beat Ohio State a couple of times in a row. And so you have the softball, you have all these other sports. That's what's outrageous to me. It's like some of the SEC schools, they're not even competing on a national level in terms of like all sports. It's really only Texas right now. And did you see that comment where like someone asked Kirby Smart about how it's going to feel when Texas starts winning the SEC? And he made like a quip like, in basketball or baseball? Like, they can't win in football. It's like, dude, it's only a matter of time when NIL's here and they're outspending everybody. I think I saw the graph from last year where it's like they're outspending, in terms of fundraising, the rest of the SEC by like $20 million. Yeah, they're going to be the top school or one of the top schools in like baseball or whatever. Because like Texas right now, they're the number 2 team. And like you said, they're losing to UTSA in baseball after Vanderbilt already got eliminated. How is that money going to go ahead and hurt them? And I talked about the Big Ten because like right now, UCLA, they were ripped off, like having no chance. They might actually get the home game now in the next round against UTSA since Texas is out, which is well deserved. Get some Big Ten teams in there. Looking around, like Duke had to go to Georgia, beat them. UNC probably moving on. Like, you're going to see a good bit of ACC teams kind of go through. Oregon, of course, loses. So, like, not all the Big Ten teams that were favored made it through. And NC State right now, they're getting slammed. I was hoping they would pull it out after their bats came alive the last two games in the losers bracket. But yeah, you're right. Not all the SEC teams are moving on, and it's going to be a pretty bad thing because like right now only 3 teams are through, 2 ACC schools in Coastal Carolina. That's why I'm saying, and my thing is with the ACC is I know schools are there, and I have a rooting interest for the ACC with NC State. I want the ACC to kind of survive because they're not going to pick every team from the ACC, and I mean I have family that went to Pitt. I grew up with like Pitt on TV and Penn State, and if they knock Pitt down a level, that like kills a little bit of that family like rivalry stuff that we grew up with. I mean, it does. The reality, like, you're just going to have like what, Pitt not compete with Penn State in anything anymore?
Well, and I just look at people would like. I don't think Michigan would ever cancel the Michigan State game. Florida State plays every year. Iowa State plays every year. Oregon State plays every year. Like there's some of those, like Georgia Tech plays every year. There's so many that they play every year that Pitt should be playing Penn State every year.
We'll see. Should they play Penn State or should they play West Virginia? Because those 3 schools have been rotating playing each other. And in reality, I would have liked to see them just do a 3-way.
I mean, I would say, me personally, play them both. You're competing for the same pot of recruits. I think that it keeps those kids in those areas in the area and doesn't bleed them out to other places. Florida State plays Miami, and they play Florida every year. And you had runs where Miami was playing really competitive. You have years where Florida's being really competitive. I wouldn't want to have a season where I'm not playing those teams, whether we have a good team or we're stinking. I feel like the rivalry game matters just as much, if not more, than some of those other ones. Like, how do you get excited to play a Division III school? You know, if you beat them, you should have. If you didn't, then you really have egg on your face.
And that's where I think too. Like, I would like you talk about Michigan State. Like, if Michigan State, they're in the Big Ten, I don't think they'd get dropped. But like, let's say they did get dropped, I'd rather have Michigan play them than Central Michigan. Or like, I guess it'd be more apt for like the Iowa State, where if Iowa gets elevated up with this Big Ten SEC merger and Iowa State gets left behind, they should still play every year. Like, it's better than them playing like North Dakota State or something, South Dakota State. Like, Iowa usually plays one of those teams too, and it's like, okay, why? Now, if the Big Ten follows the SEC here and they get dropped to an 8-game schedule, which 100% should be on the table if they want to keep their national championship streak alive, I think, like you said, first call would be Penn State should be scheduling games with West Virginia and Pitt every year from here on out then. Let the Pitt game take Thanksgiving, call the Big Ten and ask for like an ACC waiver. Take that game Thanksgiving. Let Michigan State find some other game, and then put the West Virginia game early, and that's a great schedule for them. Like, in terms of regional recruiting, national relevance, because they're going to put the West Virginia and the Pitt game on every year. Yeah, sure, West Virginia might not be good or Pitt might not end up being good, but they're both usually competitive. It's not like you're scheduling a bottom feeder. And then it just helps your like national conference thing where, hey, well, Penn State's playing an ACC team and a Big 12 team every year to help the conference strength. I would rather have that than have them fire up a game against South Carolina or something. Like, oh, do a Big 10 SEC challenge. Do an 8-game schedule and do a Big 10 SEC challenge. Like, I don't care. I don't want to see that. Like, I honestly don't want to see that. But
the only way that I would see doing something like that is that if you schedule it ahead of time as like a week 10 or like at some point where you're like these games are going to be blocked off 1-to-1, 2-2 that you want to, that are going to dictate something more like a home field advantage for the playoffs type thing. When you have some of these teams that you're on the bubble with where they fit.
I think they would have to have. I don't want them to see neutral site because the big thing is going to be ticket. You have to be able to tell. Like I don't think you can have the like what the basketball one do, where you knew like it rotated every year. So every other year I had a chance that Michigan might get picked for a North Carolina game, right, or a Virginia game that I could potentially drive to. If they were home that year, then I knew they were okay. Where football, I think they'd have to do that just in terms of revenue. They would need to know. But like you could still do a close zipper type shuffle where, hey, you have a home, you're the top seed with a home, and you're the top seed away from the SEC, then they would match up that year. And you would have to have it called earlier though, right? Like I don't know how they would, like when they would have to make that decision just for logistics of hotels and things like that. But it would be a neat idea to do that. I just don't want this to fall into the trap of, well, we can't really do the logistics. Let's put them all neutral site. Oh, Birmingham. Oh, Athens or Atlanta. And it's like, okay, dog, we got it. Although the Big Ten ones now might be interesting. Detroit, Baltimore. Like,
you do Minnesota, regardless. It's in the dome.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be a good mix. I would like to see that, honestly. But I'm all for, like, I don't want college sports to kind of die. Because, like, I've been kind of ingrained in that.
That ship has sailed, my friend.
Yeah, but, dude, it's still kind of close. Like, you can still go catch a softball game and see it compete. Football is the only one, and maybe basketball, but even with the basketball tournament, we really don't know. Like some smaller schools like Gonzaga and Butler even back then, like we've seen some of them be competitive every year, where to me that would give hope to small schools, even with NIL. I feel like if these Big Ten schools have to like shift their funding and say like, well, we got to pay all these guys, and you have a small Catholic school that only has 10 sports, and they're like, you know what? We're on TV in the Big East or whatever. We're going to just put all our NIL money into basketball. We only have to pay 10 guys. Like, they could be very competitive, like Villanova recently. And then at what point, like, the SEC's been throwing money at the basketball. Has it paid off for them? Maybe Florida won a championship, right? That's it. I mean, Baylor has won one, I think. Villanova has won 2 recently. I don't even remember what the other basketball ones. Kansas has. So, like, you've had some Big 12 success where they haven't had success in football. So I wouldn't say that all college sports have been ruined. I think that a lot of the fans that were delusional and thought that, like, hey, my school's in the South, we have a chance, even though they weren't really winning the SEC or competing. They thought that they had a chance that if their team just put it together. Now they're seeing recruits ripped all around the country, and it's annoying them. Because, like, hey, Auburn, they could win a championship in the old system. They haven't been close recently, right? They had a chance to win 2 with Cam Newton and then the Florida State year when they were up. And then Florida State knocked them back down. They have the delusions of, whoa, we're really close. This new NIL thing's really killing us. We hate it. We better go in and try to get some kind of things put back into place where we can just pay for Cam Newton to come to school. I saw a thing where they were doing like a historical, like the most important player. And like that Auburn team that Cam Newton won on, like no offensive player got picked in the draft. And like they had like no defensive talent. Like it was literally him carrying the team. And I thought, yeah, they can't do that anymore. Hopefully Michigan, though, pulls it off with Bryce Underwood. I send that every time someone's like, you can't just win with one player. I send them the Cam Newton stats where it's like, no, they won with one dude. And he was just better than everybody. It almost worked out in the NFL like that, too, with the Panthers. And I'm sad he was a character, dude. I think he would have been great for the league, so I wish he would have actually won a Super Bowl compared to some of these other jokers. But I think that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Well, one thing I forgot almost. Mike Leach So the College Football Hall of Fame made some adjustments to the winning percentage as kind of a nod to Mike Leach, so that he is now eligible. They dropped it to what, 695 if I'm right? And so you have guys like Les Miles now and Rich Rodriguez.
I thought it was 595.
No, I thought it was higher than that. I don't know. Maybe it is 595. But either way, you now have guys like Les Miles and Rich Rodriguez that are eligible, ironically. So I wonder if these guys will just get in as well, or if it was pretty much just a show to let Mike Leach in. Because they made the baseball one. I think we talked about it. I kept thinking that we did, but with the mic issues, I don't know how far we got into it. But like Major League Baseball decided to let all the older guys back in. Pete Rose, like Shoeless Joe Jackson, like they're allowed to get in. But they're still not voting Barry Bonds, my man, in. Why? Like there's no reason you can say, well, Pete Rose is good now. I feel like Barry Bonds is going to get railroaded the same way. He will die, and they will change the rule and say, you know what? We're going to make it so you can vote on one historical figure, and then everyone votes Barry Bonds in the next year. And everyone's like, yay, it's a good Hall of Fame again. And it's like, dude, it's all for show. No one cares about your Hall of Fame. Like, I honestly am not interested in taking my kids to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame at all until, like, Pete Rose and them were in, Barry Bonds is in. It's going to be hard to say, like, hey, kids, look at this guy. Oh, Dad, is he the home run leader? Oh, no, they didn't let the home run leader in. Why? Oh, they said he cheated. Did he get caught? Like, no, they never suspended him or anything. Oh, that's weird. Like, he was good for TV ratings, bro. They couldn't get him out of there. Once he retired, though, they really took a stand against him. They said his hat grew 2 sizes like the Grinch. His Grinch heart grew. Barry Bonds' head grew when he hit those home runs. Not other guys like A-Rod will probably get in. Oh, how did he get? Oh, he tested positive. Yeah, they got him. Oh, but he's allowed in and Barry Bonds isn't. Like, I don't know how anyone could explain that to their kid. Hey, how's that big roided out monster on that picture there, Dad? Is that normal? Like, no, son, that is not normal. Guys don't look like that on the street. But he's in the Hall of Fame. Like, yeah, that's why. Where's Barry Bonds? Like Mike Leach, like it would have been the same thing. Like all these great coaches that no one's ever heard of, winning at small schools or whatever. Oh, Mike Leach, an innovator. Everyone loves him. Put him in. But now you got guys like Les Miles. Will he get in? He did great things at LSU. That's prime SEC type on top of the world level, right? Went to Kansas, didn't really do anything. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? You're a coach. You like Mike Leach getting in?
Yes.
Because you're a fan of him, or you think that it's for show?
I thought with the way that he helped bring the air raid into prominence, I think it was a good thing. And I think, you know, he built up Washington State when they were in the toilet. He built Texas Tech up. He brought Mississippi State, made them competitive. Like he wasn't just at one school and had a super team with super funding, and like it would have been interesting to see what he would have did had he had an opportunity to coach at a Florida school or like a bigger Texas school where there would have been more funding and more people, more recruits to be able to pull in, because he was taking lesser known guys and making his system work for him.
And that's a good thing to end on, because like that's been my argument the entire time. Mike Leach is a good case. He deserves to be in. I kind of wish they didn't change the rules for him, and they just kind of made a shrine to him like outside, because he didn't play by their rules. He didn't jump to the big team for the big money and try to make a run. He kept winning at schools that he knew that'd give him control. He'd do it his way. Didn't recruit like the most money kids or whatever. Went to the smaller schools, had success. Very deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he would want to be in, just based on his personality. I didn't know him personally, but it seems like he was always a pirate. Let him go out as being kind of like a legend, a myth, not just honored in the regular sense, right? But I don't know. That's why I think the sport, you need guys like that. You need smaller schools to take a chance and have some of these guys come up. And if they want to move up and play big boy ball, let them go. But that's all for this week. Thanks for listening. Hopefully the audio looks like everything went smoothly, so hopefully this will work going forward, and we're ready for the year. New football coming up soon. Camps are already in. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, and we will see you next week.